everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in. So JJ, yesterday I went fishing with my son on the North Shore.
Super fun.
It was absolutely, and it is one of my all-time very favorite activities.
That's the thing you and Mitchell do, which is super cool. Like, what a fun son mom thing.
He taught me everything I know. We do fly fishing, and we are particularly interested in steelhead fishing, which for people that aren't familiar,
is that a kind of nail? What is that?
Huge trout. Huge. It looks like a rainbow trout, except massive. And they do a run twice a year, spring and fall. And the North Shore has tons. Well, it's not like a.
I'm such a fisherman. I'm like a little feet on. I guess there's sneakers.
Yeah, get a T-shirt, a little medal at the end with a bagel. No, they
swim upstream, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, and they fight massive rapids and waterfalls, and it is such a cool time to be up there. You know, the rivers are just rocking, and it's just so fun.
And you guys go like deep in. This isn't like we're standing on the edge of the bridge.
No,
casting. Right? You guys
like
are
the real
getting
gentle
way in there.
river runs through it. Pictures. Nope. We are up and down cliffs. We're chasing the water. We're in the water.
Bushwhacking through.
Yeah, yep.
There's no trails.
Sometimes there's trails. But you have to be willing to sacrifice everything to get to the spot where the fish are. And you never know when the run is actually occurring. You know, there's so many things that have to do with it. If there's a lot of rain, for example, it could be a perfect time and the fish are in the spots. But if it rains a lot, which it always does in the spring and often in the fall, then the rivers blow out. They get too high. The water turns cloudy, murky, chocolate. You can't see. So you never really know. It's always a crapshoot. So we were going to take one last run at it to see if we could hit them yesterday. So we drove up the night prior. We stayed at a friend's. We got up at 4:30 in the morning from Duluth.
Yeah.
We were in Duluth at 4:30 in the morning and drove another hour and a half straight north. Now, the thing about Duluth is it borders, obviously, the Minnesota border along Lake Superior.
Yeah.
And so there are many rivers that travel all the way down the river.
Yeah, everything
down the state.
Everything in Minnesota dumps into the lake.
Yep. So this is just a setup. So we went to the first river. We got there just as the sun came up. It was absolutely beautiful. And we were with a friend of ours this time, and we could see fish. They just weren't interested in taking what we were offering. It was very frustrating. We went up and down that river a couple times. So then we went to a second river, and it's a great big wide river, and oh my gosh, it was perfect conditions. It was so fun. And of course, every time Mitchell and I make a trip, it's always pouring rain. And it was, if you looked at the weather forecast, the days leading up to it, sun. The only day we could be on the river, 42, raining and windy the entire day.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. And anyway, we were very lucky. We both got fish. So did our buddy. It was very, very fun. If anybody wants to see the pictures, they can send me a message. I'm happy to, and a small video. But anyway, so after I caught my fish, we were kind of hoofing to a new spot. And as mentioned, it was very muddy. And I'm wearing waders and I've got multiple layers on because it's cold. I'm wearing boots and Mitchell is obviously taller, faster, stronger than I am, although he's very patient with me. We're cruising along, and I fell. And I fall at least once every trip, and it's totally fine. It's part of the adventure. I don't care. This time, I fell onto a cedar tree, a fallen cedar tree, no bark, and a bunch of little broken, just branches and stuff were like sticking up in this tree. And I fell.
Yeah, these trees are like little spikes, they're little.
Yes, yeah, spikes. nails, if you
spiky.
will,
Yeah.
like nature's nails.
Yeah.
And I landed on my left hand and I punctured my hand
Ugh.
with 2 of these pieces of branch.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's
just
terrible.
yeah, and it started to bleed a lot. And of course, I'm still motivated to catch more fish, so I'm trying to act like it's not a big deal. But now I'm making a huge mess on the forest floor, and I don't have anything to dry it with because absolutely everything is wet.
So you're just like
Okay, what do I do
bleeding
here?
blood all over the
Yeah,
place, and it's wet, and
yeah,
everything's getting gross. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm thinking, well, it's a puncture wound too, so probably it's fine that it's bleeding because I, clean it out
Yep.
in my archaic thinking. So then I decide, well, I should probably just rinse it in the river. Okay. For anybody listening, don't ever rinse
Don't do that.
a cut in a lake or a river. Don't ever do that. And I'll tell you why, because that I got an infection. So this was 2 days ago we were fishing. So yesterday I woke up in the morning and my hand looked like what can only be described as a teddy bear.
Like a big cartoon hand.
Yeah, exactly. And it had woken me up many times during the night. It was so dang painful. And I went to the doctor, I got antibiotics, et cetera, et cetera. But the whole day yesterday, my hand hurt so much. I couldn't make a fist. I couldn't straighten it out. I couldn't open a jelly jar. I couldn't
Yeah.
do anything. And by noon, I was exhausted from it hurting so much.
Yeah.
And I started to realize, my gosh, I can't focus on, and I had a really stacked day of calls yesterday with coaching calls. By 2:00 or 3:00, I was emotionally exhausted.
Yeah. So those like physical ailments take quite a toll on
Yes.
our mental state, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like whenever I have something that, is physical, I hurt myself in some way.
Yeah.
I notice that too. It's just like all your brain does all day long is focus
Yeah.
on that physical pain. And it's like you can't get hardly anything else done.
Right. Even if you are trying to mentally make a shift to not think about it and just, pretend like everything is fine, it just splits your energy. It's like you're leaking energy everywhere because you don't
Yeah.
feel fine. You should be honoring how you feel. And I don't. I ignore it. Like, that's what I do.
You're leaking energy. You physically have holes in your hand and your energy is leaking out.
I know it. And so then I was talking with you and you were saying, I haven't been feeling good, and this has been
Yeah.
like a chronic thing. And it's like, sometimes I feel good and then I can't feel good. I can't figure out what's going on. It does take an emotional toll,
Yep.
right? And it got me thinking about like chronic illness,
Yeah.
people that suffer chronic pain, chronic illness. And I've always tried to have a lot of empathy about that. But after yesterday, it's like almost the only thing I can be thinking about right now is how people manage that mental game of injury or pain.
Yeah. Right. It's pretty interesting. Like I feel like I'll start sounding old now or something. Like when you're young, when you get hurt, something happens to you physically when you're young, you bounce back. You seem to bounce back pretty quick.
I agree. Yeah.
Right? Like if your son had punctured his hand,
Yeah.
he probably would have just like not had much problem with recovery, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even noticed.
Right.
But maybe as we get older, or maybe there are certain situations where this physical ailments end up really hijacking both our mood
Yeah.
and even like our cognitive ability. Like
Yeah.
I know like when I'm not feeling well, or whether it's even if it's like the flu or a cold or something,
Yeah.
that's one thing. It's kind of like there's like brain fog stuff happening.
Right.
But in the past, I've had stuff like you where I've had like maybe an infection in my finger because I was doing something, dumb in the garage, or like one time I sprained my ankle really bad, and it wasn't like a brain fog that I had, but all my mind kept doing was going back
Mhm.
to my ankle
I
over
know.
and over. It's just like
I know.
spin, spin, spin. And, we talk about being in your centered space.
Right.
Well, these kinds of things
Right.
just pull you out every second of the day.
That's right. Yeah, they really do. And it's funny that you brought that up because Mitchell did puncture his hand once a few years ago.
Hmm.
And when he saw mine, he said, "Oh, yeah, I did that once. Yeah, it hurt for a couple of days."
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thanks
I
for
was like,
your support.
yeah, that was his glowing show of, well, actually, he's usually pretty much a worrywart about me. I was like, "Stop making me feel like I'm 100. It's fine." But he did, yeah, he was like, "Yeah, oh yeah, that happened to me too. That hurts." Um, and even my husband was like, no, I was like, "This hurts so bad." And he's like, "Do you think we should cut it off?" It's
What?
like, people
What?
just don't, which also you think about people that have chronic pain that you can't
Hmm.
see
Yes.
and the judgment that they receive,
Yeah.
or
Right.
the lack of empathy, even if it's not judgment, the lack of empathy, that what they do is
Yep.
so much harder. They're just being normal,
Yep.
quote, air quotes, is so much harder when you
Yeah.
have some sort of physical pain.
Yeah. One of our good friends, she had Lyme's disease,
Oh, yeah.
and that
Mhm.
is a very
Mhm.
long, ongoing, hard to get rid of
Yep.
thing that causes
Yeah,
um
all sorts of stuff,
all sorts of stuff.
joint issues
But
and
just kind of like long term, long
mhm.
running,
Mhm.
uh, like pain and fatigue. Um, and it is really amazing when she describes that period
Mhm.
of her life. I mean, it's really bad. And we had um one of our neighbors up north, their daughter had Lyme's disease,
Mhm.
and she ended up unfortunately like taking her own life because it was so unbearable.
Oh.
Which is
Wow.
just heartbreaking, right?
Yes. Yep.
And um so
Yeah.
those things, those long, chronic, ongoing events have
Yep.
such a huge mental impact.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you're right that it's hard for us to really empathize with that stuff because most people don't experience it.
Right.
We might
Right.
experience it in little doses, like you're
Mm.
currently experiencing it,
Exactly right. It's a
but
blip on the screen.
what you're doing is you're really taking this event for you and thinking about, okay,
Mhm.
what if this was my new normal
Yep.
for the next
Yes.
few years?
Yeah, because by the way, when I went to the doctor, when I went to
Hmm.
to urgent care, the doctor freaked out. I was like, "Wait, aren't you supposed to be really moderate here?" He's like, "Hand problems like this are hugely problematic. You have to
Hmm.
really watch this. If anything changes, go right to the hospital. Don't go to a clinic. You'll have instant surgery." I mean, I
Wow.
was like, you aren't helping me. I'm trying to stay moderate and calm.
Yeah.
You
You're just
get
whipping me up.
get off my side. I could even tell you that I was naughty, and when they told me I was gonna get an MRI, I said, "Fine." I went in to do that. They said, "Okay, go ahead and strip down, and we're gonna take you to an MRI machine outside in a truck." And I was like,
What?
"What?" And I was like, "It's my hand. Why do I have to strip
Yeah.
down?" Literally.
What kind of hospital are you going to? This sounds a little sketchy.
No, it was one of the majors, I won't say.
Okay. I got this MRI machine. It's in the back of my van.
No, it's fine. Everybody does it. Uh, well,
Well,
I just, and to the other thing I've
so,
been, is,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the other thing I've been kind of thinking about this whole thing is not only how much I tried to, how much I realized the impact that an injury had, like really
Hmm.
truly. I also really had a realization this morning of emotionally, I was depressed last night. I got
Mm.
really down last
Hmm.
night. And I realized that I had been telling myself a story the entire day. It's fine. Get over it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Get over it. Like
Yeah.
the narrative that I was giving myself was not working.
Mm.
It was not working. And I don't think that was the narrative I should have given myself. I know I'm
Yep.
judging, but I don't mean to sound judgmental. I'm really just like I'm curious about the way I responded, and I'm curious if there would have been a more healthy
Mm.
mental attitude or story that I told myself that would have
Yeah.
made it a little easier.
Right. So yesterday, you said that you had a really, you had a lot of coaching sessions yesterday. So you had a
Yep.
big,
Yep.
big load for work
Yeah.
yesterday. You
I
had a
had
lot,
5 hours on the
of
phone.
appointments. So that's a
Yep.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what you were telling yourself is you're just powering through it.
Get on
You're
with it.
okay. Just I got buckle down and focus on my work and that whole thing and just get through it. Like you're saying, I wonder if you took a different approach, like what would now that you're reflecting on it, what would
Yeah.
your alternate approach to yesterday
Oh,
be?
that's a good question. You know what I probably should have done? I probably should have changed some of my meetings.
Hmm.
Because I looked at my calendar and I was like, okay, well, if this still hurts at 3 o'clock, then I can go and talk to somebody.
Hmm.
But I can't miss any of these because
Yeah.
I missed yesterday. I can't miss 2 days in a row. I've got too much going on, which I have a lot going on. But you know what? That's ridiculous because that's so ridiculous because
You're gonna
everybody
have a
gets
lot
sick,
more going on if your hand falls off because you
falls off.
do the MRI thing.
You're not going to want to wear that like a necklace. So you should just see if you can keep it
Hmm.
where it is. But yeah, I think if I would have been a little more realistic about what expectation looked like and judgment, it's like,
Yeah, well, there's a couple interesting things going on, right? Like for you, you are a high producer.
yeah,
You don't like you don't like sitting on the sidelines or taking a
no,
knee,
no,
right?
uh-uh.
So you're
I feel
gonna
like a failure.
do this thing where you try to like power through, but frankly, is that fair to do to your clients? Like
Right.
you showing
That's
up kind
right.
of like half
Yeah.
Melissa for the coaching
Right.
session? Probably
Right.
not,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah,
Is it
because
fair
I
to
was
do
definitely preoccupied. It just didn't
right?
feel,
You're like
yeah.
half, you're trying to listen, but you're probably
Mm-hmm.
half listening
Yeah.
and
Well intended, but still only half able to focus.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from like a product perspective,
Yeah.
we'll go
Right.
there.
Yeah.
It's probably like not as
Not my best
genuine
work.
of you to do. And then personally, it left you feeling like you had a bad day,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like you weren't proud of the day.
Yep.
You felt crappy. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you just needed to call it and say, you know what, I don't have it today.
Right. And I think that would have been absolutely fine to do. Everyone understands that.
Mm-hmm.
People understand if you don't feel well. I mean, it's just like we were talking about with you when you don't feel well, you don't wanna admit that. No one likes to admit, well, most of us, I don't think, like to admit when we don't feel well.
Yep.
It somehow is like a weak thing. It's like in our house when I was growing up, you didn't miss anything.
Mm.
And being sick was like a weakness when I was
Yeah.
little.
Yeah.
Right? Are you really sick? Are you sure?
Yeah, how much of this could be like a remnant of your
Oh,
childhood
100%.
programming where it's like, we do this we do this now with our kids. It's
Yeah.
like, are they just trying to, are they sick? Are they just trying to
Yeah.
like skip school a little bit, right?
Right.
Melissa, were you really sick? Or are you just trying to skip work a little bit?
Is your hand really looking like a
Yeah.
cartoon character, or did you
Just
do
show-
something?
Do you have a doctor's note for that hand? Well, that part is interesting because I do
Yeah.
think we do have that that kind of programming
Yeah.
in us from
Mhm.
childhood,
Yep.
which is kind of a remnant from how we were schooled or how we
Yeah.
were brought up. And with my team at work, we talk about this a lot. Like I just say, hey, if you're not feeling it
Right.
today, please
Yeah.
don't come to work.
Right.
Just for the exact reasons I said. Like if you're on the front lines with our customers, I don't want you phoning it in for today.
Right.
I'd rather you take the whole day off, recoup, come back the next day,
Right.
and be 100%.
Right.
So, like, even taking a break just because you mentally don't have it today for
Yeah.
whatever reason, I feel is totally okay.
I think there is something to that because if you think about family cultures, there are certain families that seem like they are, and this isn't a judgment, this is just an observation, that seem like they are always sick or someone is always sick. They
Hmm.
have a cold, they got the flu, anything going around their family seems to get. And
Yeah.
then there are families that are like the Albers. We're never sick. It's weird. We're never sick. And if we are, then we go to that whole thing like, oh, it's a character flaw. You're sick.
Mm,
Oh, really? Don't come over.
yeah.
You know, it is a weird thing. It is a weird thing. It's if you have an injury or you have a sickness, you just do, and you should take care of
You just
yourself.
do, right? Yeah, a little less judgment
Yeah,
like the thing you were doing is like you've got so many expectations about how you should be, and when
yeah,
you're not that thing,
totally.
you just derail yourself. Like,
Yes, I know. You said that before, actually. Not just about sickness, it's just about expectation. I will have to do a podcast on that when I feel a little stronger. Not now. I still feel very vulnerable.
well, this is fun to like dissect a little bit. I always like when we get to talk about something that like
Yeah.
is currently happening,
Yes.
like your
Yes.
cartoon hand.
Right. Yes.
And
Hopefully it will be down by next week. Hopefully.
yeah, what are you
I
gonna do this weekend?
well,
Not go fishing?
no, and of course we just had 12 yards of mulch delivered and it's
Oh,
piled up
God.
and I can't even grip anything.
What
So
unfortunate timing.
yeah, I heard that too. Oh, really? You hurt your hand? Oh, really? Did you see that mulch and suddenly your hand started to puff up? How'd you do that?
Well, hopefully everyone, gives themselves a little bit of grace when they're not feeling well or have a
Absolutely.
physical injury of some sort, or even just kind of a mental funk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And hopefully people will also give other people grace,
yeah,
even if they can't see the ailment that that other person has or is
yeah,
admitting that they're dealing
yeah,
with. It's like give them grace because
yeah. And so you said the thing, this thing that like for some reason, again, from maybe early childhood programming, we kind of think when we see other people sick, are like, are they
yeah,
really that sick? Are
I
they kind of fake?
know.
Are they? If I was them, would
Yeah.
I be acting
Yes,
so
yes,
sick? Or
yes,
would I,
yes,
you know what I
yes.
mean?
Yes.
Like, and that's just so ridiculous. It
I
doesn't
know.
matter
I
how
know.
actually sick they are or aren't, right? It's they
Right.
are in that
They're not
feeling
feeling
space,
themselves.
and just let them be that,
Yes.
right?
That's so good.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.